Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexandre Duchevet, and today I'm going to present you FOCUS, or Intelligent Startle Management Assistant for maximizing pilot resilience. So, three parts in my presentation. First, an introduction to the startle effect. Then I will present you the different functions of the FOCUS Assistant, and then I will show you the results of our evaluations. To begin with, a short video to give you an example of what is the startle effect in the cockpit.
Approach is active.
Checked.
Traffic.
Traffic, TCAS, you have control.
Yeah, I have control TCAS.
So here we had a strong startle reaction from the female pilot with a typical facial expression. And we also observed that she took few seconds to recover from the startle, from the TCAS alert. So when we are talking about the startle effect in aviation, we are in fact mixing up two things. First, the startle reflex, which is the reaction to a sudden and intense stimulus, and the surprise, which is an emotion resulting from a disparity between a person's expectation and what is actually perceived. A startle without a surprise does not happen a lot in a cockpit. On the contrary, a surprise without a startle is fairly common. And the main source of surprise in the cockpit is the aircraft position, then the air traffic control, and other crew member actions. And with the growing complexities of cockpit, automation surprises are also common. Startle and surprise together can happen for a lot of reasons, like engine explosion, autopilot disconnection, TCAS, like in the video. And the consequences can be very bad for the pilot with cognitive incapacitation, inappropriate cockpit input, etc. And it can lead to catastrophic consequences like the Air France 447 or AirAsia 8501, for which the startle effect has been identified as a major cause of these crashes. So how we manage the startle effect today? First, through training. We want the pilots to get familiar with lots of situations to react adequately. Then we have the crew resource management, the CRM, which is the way crews are communicating between each other, sharing information. And according to studies, the crew with good CRM are the best to handle unexpected events in the cockpit. And finally, we have the threat and error management, which are all the procedures and also the cockpit design that are in place to prevent and minimize the consequences of errors from the pilot, or especially due to startle effect, for example. Today's solutions have limitations. First, pilots cannot be exposed to all situations in training. Then experiencing something in the simulator is different from experiencing it in the reality. Shutting down an engine in flight is not as easy as shutting down the engine in the simulator. And for more about it, I encourage you to see the flight Air France 735 Victor with a fuel leak over Africa. It is also difficult to trigger a startle and a surprise in a simulator. The more realistic the simulator, the better to trigger a startle and a surprise. And finally, even if we have procedures in place to apply after an unexpected event, it is difficult to apply them under startle. So what we propose is our assistant called FOCUS, for Flight Operational Companion for Unexpected Situations. The work on this assistant has been done within the HAICU project, which is a Horizon Europe project. And the objective of HAICU is to develop recommendations for the use of human-centered AI in the cockpit, but also in other aviation domains, such as the ATM, the urban air mobility, or airport. And within this project, we developed a prototype of FOCUS designed to help pilots overcome the effects of startle and surprise. So the assistant has three main functions. The first one is the startle effect detection function, to ensure that the assistant is activated appropriately when there is a startle effect. I won't talk more about it today because it's a work in progress. It's not implemented yet. In fact, we want the assistant to detect the startle effect thanks to the physiological parameter of the pilot. The second function is the stress regulation support. The assistant will provide an active relaxation to the pilots to help him recover quickly from the startle effect. And third, there is a situation awareness support for which the assistant will help pilots to retrieve key information for them to rebuild a good mental representation of the situation. So about the stress regulation support. It is composed of two things. First, the breathing guidance. The assistant will accompany the pilot to breathe at a specific rhythm, 5-second breathe in, 5-second breathe out, thanks to lights in green and LEDs installed in the cockpit, as you can see on the picture. And we have also an haptic stimulation, thanks to an haptic wristband, that simulate a 60 BPM heartbeat to passively reduce stress. According to studies, this kind of thing can reduce stress and anxiety among people. To talk about the situation awareness support, I will first talk about the scan path of the pilot. So here in yellow on the primary flight display, we have the gaze position of a pilot. And a normal scan path looks like this. The pilot regularly scanning all parameters to have a good situation awareness. Under startle effect, the scan path can be different. Here, for example, focusing on the altitude with a risk of information missed and tunnelization. What the assistant focus does is attracting the attention of the pilot towards relevant information on the primary flight display there. And it does that thanks to the attention getter. You can see in amber, it's a number box around the parameter that attracts the attention of the pilot. So once the pilot look at the parameter, the attention getter disappears. And we do that thanks to an eye tracking device. An attention getter can appear for two reasons. First, if the pilot did not look at a parameter for a long time, or if a parameter is varying too much or too rapidly, and the pilot is not aware of it. We have two levels of alerts. First, a caution in amber and a warning in red. The assistant is monitoring a few parameters. In yellow, the parameters on the primary flight display. In green, the parameter on the nav display. And in red, the parameter on the system display. And the assistant has a human-machine interface to enable pilot to manually activate or deactivate each function of the assistant. It also shows information about pilots on physiological state with the heartbeat, for example. And it gives also a score of situation awareness and a schematic PFD representation for the pilot to be able to see where he is at in terms of situation awareness. So we evaluated focus with several objectives. The first one is to gather feedback on the assistant in a relevant environment. Then we wanted also to validate our startling and surprising scenarios we played. And finally, we wanted to record physiological data to train our startle detection module. We had 5 professional pilots that came for our experiments that were either qualified on Boeing or Airbus. And we played the scenario on the ENAC A320 research simulator. And they were equipped with physiological sensors, eye tracking glasses, and the haptic wristband. The 2 scenarios we played are this one. First, a shifting cargo at takeoff, inducing a strong pitch-up moment and creating a surprise by pilots. The second scenario was the lightning strike on final approach with a loud bang, an intense flash, and electrical problem, triggering a startle and a surprise by pilots. The startle effect detection module was played in Wizard of Oz. It was simulated. The situation awareness and stress regulation function were implemented for the experiment, and the HMI as well on the cockpit electronic flight bag, as you can see on the picture. All participants were startled and or surprised during the experiments, and it was confirmed by physiological data, facial expression, and also self-assessment of surprise and startle. And as we can see on the graph, we have the electrodermal activity of participant 1. And on the lightning strike event, we can see a strong increase of the conductance of the skin conductance of the participant, which is a marker of a startle reaction. About the stress regulation support and the briefing support, pilots deemed this was a good idea, but some had difficulties to allocate resources to it during after the unexpected event. About the wristband, pilots played with it during the training, they felt it, but in the heat of the situation after the lightning strike, for example, none of them felt the haptic wristband and the heartbeat, the simulated heartbeat on the wrist. About the situation awareness support, pilots felt it was very effective, but they raised their concern about the possible disturbance if there are too many attention getters on the screens. In fact, this was a little bit the case for some of them because we had performances issues with the eye tracker, and it resulted in an attention getter around the heading constantly displayed during the scenario. And it was a disturbance for some pilots. And finally, about the human-machine interface, we had pilots that played with the human-machine interface before the unexpected event, activating, for example, the situation awareness support. But after the unexpected event, none of them had the resources to look at it. So a video to show you what was it like during the evaluation. So we have our participants equipped with the eye tracking glasses. This is the lightning strike scenario. So you will see the startle reaction from the participant. And you will also be able to see the LED pulsing at the right rhythm. And also, if you pay attention, the attention getters appearing and disappearing on the primary flight display. Installed in the cockpit that are pulsing to help the pilot to breathe at a specific rhythm. We can see around the speed an attention getter that appeared, and it will disappear when the participant looked at it. So what's next? We'll perform a design iteration based on pilot feedback. Then we will conduct specific evaluations to evaluate ways to reduce stress in complex and demanding environment, to go further than the haptic wristband. And finally, we will try to implement our startle and surprise detection module. Thank you for your attention.